So in this video tutorial now we're ready to add a little bit of interaction to our third view controller or our third tab here in Xcode. So to do that, first of all, I'm going to add a couple of objects that are going to be our interactive animated objects to start with. And the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the placeholder label I had in my third view controller. And I'm going to drag a button out to my interface and drop it about here. And I'm going to rename this Move. And then I'm going to go back to my object library and I'm going to scroll down and search for View. So down here is a View object. I'm going to drag that out and position it up here in the left-hand corner. If it wants to be a little bit bigger, you're just going to have to resize it. And you can do that by grabbing the corner of it, as you would expect. Just dragging that down. Notice it's a little tricky when it's invisible when you're dragging it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a background color so I can see it and watch it actually do something. So I go to the third from the right, and the property inspector is the attributes inspector. With my UI view selected, I choose a different background than white. I'm going to choose this maroon color, this red, make it a little bit more square, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to position it just at the top here. So okay, so I've got a move button and I've got an object that I want to move. But to make these objects interact with the user, I need to actually add the code to do that. And fortunately, we've got a place to put our code in the third view controller header and implementation, or M file. To get to those files, I simply click on the bottom of the third view controller so that Xcode knows that this is the one that I want to work with. And I go up to the second from the left icon here. It looks like a butler's suit, if you like. It's the assistant editor. And I click Show Assistant Editor. And hopefully Xcode will do what your Xcode will do, what my Xcode application did, and that is to automatically open up the third view controller .h file. If it didn't, make sure you locate that file in the assistant editor view. And now we're ready to add our code in here. So what I'm going to start with is just looking what I've got. I've got import UI kit. So it's bringing in the UI kit framework, which includes, it's got this statement here, a declaration at interface, third view controller, colon, the UI view controller class. So that looks good. And I'm just going to give myself a little bit of extra room. And I'm going to select the first object up the top here, which is my outlet. And I'm going to click and drag and drop this down here. The connection is going to be outlet, and the name I'm going to call it mover. Then I'm going to say type UI view and leave the storage as weak and click connect. Then I'm going to go to my button and I'm going to click and drag that underneath my outlet. And this time the connection type is going to be action. And I'm going to call this move. Leave it type ID, event, touch up inside, which as you know is the iOS preferential event name, and the argument sender, click connect. And so now we've got our code to begin with in our header file, and we're ready to go to the implementation file to add the actual code for the method to work, this IB action method. I switch to the third view controller M file, and now I'm in the implementation file. The first thing I want to do is to synthesize this object, this outlet. And to do that, I go to the @implementation declaration after third view controller, and I simply hit return, and I'm going to say at, and notice the first thing it says, it hints at, is synthesize property. That is indeed what I want, and the property is mover. And notice it should give us a hint that that's what we are likely doing. And yes, we are. I can hit return, and then we do want a semicolon to end that line. And then we go down here, and you can see that Xcode has very kindly added the method for us here to just add the code to in the block. And so I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to add my code for the IB action move. And the code that I want is going to be this UI view, and it gives me the hint for that, UI view, and I want begin animations, and it says NS string, but I'm going to replace that with nil, and I don't want anything returned. I do want context, and the context is not void. The context is going to be null in capital letters for null. Then I want a semicolon at the end of that line. Now we're ready to actually put in the animation code here, which is going to be UI view space. Notice we're using the square brackets. Set animation and the one that I want here is actually, I can see it down here in my set of methods. Set animation duration, that's the one I want. Whoops, lost it. Set animation duration, so I'm going to double click on that, and it says NS time interval, and it's going to be 1.0, and that's going to be followed by a square bracket, semicolon, and then the next line is going to be square bracket again, UI view space set animation, only this time we're going to say repeat count, and this is a float, so UI view set animation repeat count, and actually we're just going to put in 10 and semicolon, and then the last one here is going to be UI view space set animation repeat auto reverse. So this is the one just above there. It is Boolean, and it is going to be yes. We do want it to auto reverse, and couple of spaces just to give us a bit more breathing room here. And now I'm going to add the CG point position POS equals mover dot center. So the position is going to be y equals 220, which is also a float, and mover dot center equals POS. And then lastly, we have to write some code here to for UI view. Again, we have to say commit animations, and that ought to do it. So let's see if this bit of code works, and to do that we're going to build it once again to the iPhone Retina here for the moment. Build succeeded. Hello, this is my first page. This is my second, and then my third page. And whoops, this is a little bit tall for my screen here, but you can see if I click move, indeed, we get this animation, and the object is doing as it's supposed to. On the y-axis, 220 pixels moving vertically, and it should stop after the 10th time, which it did. I didn't count, but I believe it was 10 times. So the only other thing we want to do here is to actually switch this now. I've plugged in my iPhone, and I want to actually deploy this app for testing to my device instead of to the simulator. And to do that, I'm going to, with my phone plugged in and properly provisioned, following all the instructions from last week's class, you simply should be able to click on this menu of devices here, and you notice there's an up arrow, and there's my phone, and it's got my personal name on it, so you should see your actual device name there. So I'm going to build to my phone, and you won't see it here, but it did build indeed to my phone. And so now this app, my first tab app, and by the way, my phone was locked. So here I got a real live warning, could not launch because my phone was locked. So now I've unlocked it, I click OK, and here is the app on my phone now. And I can run it, and it is working as it should. So that's how to add a little bit of animation. We're going to have you do some more animation on your own and build out this third view controller. Add some animation to this screen and deploy it to your device so you can actually have some fun starting to test your tab app, which we're going to build on over the next couple of weeks.